Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy Friday. How are y'all doing on this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day? Listen, I am super excited about today's conversation because I am going to be digging into my proprietary method. I am going to introduce you to the safety method. I am so excited to talk about it today because it truly is a very clear path for you to go from I think I can do this. I think I can have a coaching business, an online business. I think I can repackage my existing skills into digital products and coaching offers. So it takes you from that, I think I can, to actually having it, and not just having it, but being able to sustain it, to scale it, and to grow it. Okay. So let's get into this thing because, first of all, I want to start off by dismantling something, okay? Because I think there's a story a lot of women are telling themselves about building additional streams of income, and that story is quietly keeping you from starting something that you're more than ready to build. And the story goes a little something like this. Before I can do this, I need to have more. I need more credentials, more confidence, more time, more audience, more certainty. I basically need to become a whole different, more complete version of myself before any of this can happen. And I want you to I want to take a look at that story today. Because the fact of the matter is, it's not true, y'all. Not one single piece of it. And the reason that I know that it's not true is because I've experienced the evidence on the other side of that. I've watched women who looked just like you, who told themselves that this exact story, this exact narrative for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years before they finally decide to go and get started. And what happened to them isn't what the story predicted, right? They didn't fail because they weren't ready. They built something. And it's the building that made them more ready than any amount of preparation ever could. So today, on this Friday, we're going to bust some myths up in here today. We are going to talk about the stories, and we're going to look at what's true and what's false. And I'm going to introduce you to something that changes how this whole process looks. And I'm so excited about introducing it to you. It is a framework that I built my entire business around, and it's called the safety method. And by the end of this conversation, I want you to feel like this path is clearer than it's ever been for you, because it is. Now, drop your city in the comments if you're watching live, and if you're watching the replay, drop the date that you're watching this so I know when you're finding this. Now, let's get into it, okay? Welcome back to another episode of Nick at Noon. My name is Nick Scott, and I'm the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit. We are an online education platform where we help professional women turn their existing skills into coaching income and digital products so they can build multiple streams of income beyond a single paycheck. So if you're excellent at what you do, you're underpaid for what you know, and you're starting to question whether your job is your only option, guess what? You're in the right place. So if you haven't already, go get your notebook and your pen or whatever it is that you take notes on. Share this video with your biz bestie. And before we get into these myths, I want to make sure that you know that Her Income Lab registration is open, and it closes on May 29th. So we're going to be meeting on May 30th for a 3-hour live workshop where you build your coaching offer in real time with me. So general registration is $147, or you can upgrade to the VIP experience for $297. The link for Her Income Lab is in the description, or you can go to my website after this video at herincomeedit.com/workshop. Now, let's get into this, okay? So I'm going to be walking you through 5 things that I hear women say all the time that are keeping them from building additional income. And for each one of these, I want to show you what's true about them. Because I think some of these things have been sitting in your head for so long that they are starting to feel like facts, and they're not. So let's get into it. So myth number 1, you need to start a whole new business. And I want to be honest and say that this is the one that stops more women than almost anything else. Because when most women hear build additional income from your skills, their brain automatically goes to, okay, so I need to come up with this whole new, brand new, never before seen idea. I need to build a website. I need to create a brand. I need to figure out a name. I need to set up all the tech. I need to start from scratch. Is that you? If that's you, drop yes in the chat, because you're not alone. And honestly, that sounds like years of work before you can even make a single dollar, right? But that's not what building additional income from your skills requires, y'all. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. And the thing about it is that framing, it isn't just exhausting just to even think about doing all those things. It's wrong. But here's the truth. You're not starting a business from scratch. You're literally repurposing what you already know. You are taking the knowledge, the skills, the frameworks, the judgment that you've spent years building inside of your career and inside of your life experience, and then you're making them available to people outside of your 9 to 5 and outside of the traditional context. And that's a completely different project than starting something new. Is it not? Would you agree with that? So you don't need a new idea. You need a new container for your existing idea. You don't need to become somebody different. You need to position what and who you already are. So the thing that's going to generate additional income for you isn't something you're going to just stumble upon and discover. It's literally something you already know. And recognizing that, it changes the whole scale of what you're looking at, okay? So that is myth number 1. You need to start a whole new business. Myth number 2 is you need to quit your job first. And listen, I hear this one all the time, and I want to be very, very crystal clear about it. You do not need to quit your job to build additional income from your skills. And I'm going to say that again. And actually, if you're taking notes, I'm going to repeat it, and I want you to personalize it. I want you to write down in your notes, I do not need to quit my job to build additional skills from my skills. Because the fact of the matter is, that is not a prerequisite for this. It is not a requirement. In fact, for most women, if you decide to start building and creating your second stream of income while you're employed, that is a smarter path for most women, because your salary is your runway. And I say it all the time. I believe that your 9 to 5 should be the first investor in your business. Your job, it allows you to build without desperation. And the women who try to build something meaningful from a place of financial panic, they move differently than the women who build from a place of stability. Like, I've seen it time and time again. Now, some women do eventually leave their jobs, and some women, like me, have the decision that was made for them. But the leaving part, the leaving of your job, that's never what creates the income. It's building that creates your income. And the building of your offer, of your online business, can start right now. And it can start in the margins of the life that you're already living. It does not require a dramatic pivot. What it does require is consistent small actions pointed in the right direction. Now, I want you to type myth in the comments if any of these have been living in your head, because I want to see how many of us have been holding on to these as a hard rule. Okay? Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Are y'all ready for myth number 3? All right, let's get into it. Myth number 3 is you need a big audience before you get started in this industry. And I want to be, again, very clear and transparent because I understand where it comes from. Because this myth is everywhere right now, because the version of coaching and online businesses that gets the most visibility is the version of people who have a big platform. So it's the coach with 500,000 followers and a waiting list. And so you and other women who are aspiring, I hate to say aspiring, but I'm going to use it here just to illustrate what I'm trying to say. So you and other aspiring coaches, you look at the coach who has 500,000 followers and a waiting list, and then you start to believe that you need that before you can have any of this, right? But here's what I know from working with women who have built coaching income. You don't need a huge audience. What you need is a specific offer and a clear message that is directed at the right people. So I have seen it with my own eyes, a woman with 200 followers and a position coaching offer that speaks directly to the people who are ready and paying attention to her. That person with 200 followers will consistently outsell someone who has 50,000 followers and who has never, ever put themselves out there and made a direct, specific offer to anyone. They've never tried to sell anything. The thing about it is that audience size is a downstream outcome. So audience size, it grows as a result of building something. It is not a precondition for building something. And the women who wait for the audience before they build their first offer, they end up waiting forever and waiting, and they keep waiting. Because the audience that builds fastest is the one that's built around a clear offer and a clear person. It's not one that is built around the hope that eventually enough people will show up to justify making the ask. Enough people will show up to justify selling the thing. So that is myth number 3. If you are just joining, we are covering 5 myths about what it is that people believe that you need to get started in this business. And we have just covered the first 3 myths. The first myth was you need to start a whole new business, which is not true. The second myth is you need to quit your job first, which is not true. The third myth is you need a big audience first, which is not true. And we are about to get into these last 2 myths. So myth number 4 is you need more credentials. So this is the one that I want to dig into for a moment, because I think this one is is one of the most seductive of all of these on this list that I'm giving you, because getting more credentials, it feels responsible. It feels like due diligence. It feels like you're making sure that you're going to do this right before you do it. But I have a question that I want to ask you. Can I ask you a question? What would one more certification give you that 7 years of doing the thing that you do hasn't already given you? What is the certification going to give you? What would one more course add to a decade of the experience that you already have? What does a credential that is issued by an institution, what does it tell someone that about your track record? What does it tell someone about your results? What does it tell someone about your lived expertise that all of those things don't already tell them? And I'm here, let me be very clear about this. And I always have to, have this disclaimer when I talk about credentials and things like that and certifications. But the thing is, I'm not saying that credentials have no value. I'm saying that For most women that I work with, the credential gap is not the real gap that they're having. That's not what we're closing. The gap that we close is positioning. The gap is not being able to articulate clearly enough who you help, what you help them with, and why someone would pay you for that thing. And the fact is that more credentials, it doesn't close that gap. What closes that gap is a built offer. So you already have enough to start. So the question was never whether or not you're qualified. The question is whether you've packaged what you're qualified to do in a way that someone can find it and say yes to it. So that is myth number 4, that you need more credentials. Myth number 5 is you need a lot of time. Let me just slow down, because this one gets used as a deferral strategy more than almost any other one of these myths. So you'll say things to yourself like, you know what, Nick, I will get started. I hear you, I feel you, but things are so busy right now. I'll start when things slow down. Or, Nick, it is summer. We are vacationing. We are jet setting. My kids are out of school. I have things to do. This is like really, my relax season. So you know what, Nick, I will get serious about building my business in the fall. Or I hear things like, I just need to get through this season of life right now, right? Like, it is my son is a senior in high school, and he's graduating, and he's the all-star basketball player, and I'm at games all the time. So you know what, Nick, I just need to get through this season first, and then I will get started on building my online business and start my coaching business. And here's the thing about that. I understand that impulse, because we as women, we are truly busy. So please do not misunderstand what I'm saying as minimizing the responsibilities and the things that we're called to do, and in the lives of the people that we're called to do it, right? I'm not minimizing it at all, because I have lived every single version of it. Every version that I just described, I have lived every version of that. So women are truly busy. We're busy. You are managing careers, you're managing families, you're managing communities, you're managing responsibilities, and time is real. It is real, y'all. But I want to challenge you on this one right here, because the question isn't whether you have a lot of time, because we all have the same amount of time, right? So the question is whether you have 30 to 60 focused minutes a few times a week, a half an hour to an hour, focused just a few times a week, because that is what building the foundations of a coaching business truly requires. It doesn't require a sabbatical from your job. It doesn't require you to restructure your life. Building the foundations of your coaching business requires focused, intentional, consistent work in small windows. Ask me how I know. I've built both versions of my coaching business while I was working full time. Both versions. How did you do it, Nick? Well, the first version, my children were still at home. So it wasn't like, oh, you know what, Nick? This time with her income edit, your kids are out the house, you're an empty nester. Yes, all of that is true, but that doesn't mean that my life is less busy. Let's be clear about that. But also, the first time that I did this, when I decided to get into coaching in 2019, my kids were still in school. They were in high school, middle school and high school, somewhere in there. And I built during my lunch break. I built while I was sitting down watching TV. I found those 30 to 60 minutes a few times a week to build my business. Okay? So that's the whole thing. It doesn't require you to restructure your life or to take a sabbatical, because what it really requires is to find the time, because we all do have that time. whether it means waking up a few minutes earlier or going to bed a few minutes later, whatever it is, we all have that time. So we just need to be very focused and intentional. And the key word in all of this is consistent within those small windows. Because the truth of the matter is, the women that I've watched build income from their skills, they were mostly very busy when they started, and myself included. So we don't find more time. We just get more intentional about the time that we do have. And the clarity that comes from working on the right things in focus blocks, it comes faster than scattered hours that accumulate when you're trying to do everything at once. So let me put all 5 of these together before we move on. If you are just joining, we are talking about the 5 myths that keep women from building their coaching businesses, okay? So I want to put all 5 of these together before we jump into the safety method, all right? So, first myth, you don't need a new idea. You don't need to start a new business. You don't need to quit your job is the second myth. You don't need a large audience, the third myth. You don't need another degree, the fourth myth. And you don't need to restructure your life. That's the fifth myth that we just got done talking about. So what do you need then? If you don't need to do all those things, Nick, what do I need? You need a framework. You need a clear sequential path from where you are and not to a build offer that's ready to generate income. So you need a framework that takes you from where you are to having a built offer that's ready to generate income. And that is exactly what the safety method was designed to be. Let me introduce you to my proprietary method, the safety method. And this is the method that my entire business, Her Income Edit, is built around. The safety method is a 6-step framework that I developed for women who want to generate income from the skills they already have without starting over, without burning their lives down to the ground to do it, and without following someone else's formula that doesn't fit your life. And I want to be clear about why I called this the safety method, because it was intentional. And it is the safety method, not because building your own stream of income is about playing it safe, because it's not. I call it the safety method because real safety, the kind that stands firm when things unexpectedly shift, it comes from having options. That's where real safety comes from. It comes from having options. And real safety, it comes from having something that belongs to you. Woo, baby. Let me tell you something. Middle age ain't no joke. It comes from having something that belongs to you. It comes from not being entirely dependent on one employer's decision for your entire financial future. That is where real safety comes from. So, the safety method is how you build that kind of, what we talking about here, Nick? Safety. Somebody drop safety in the comments. So let me walk you through my framework. So the S in safety stands for scan your skills. And this is where we start. If you work with me, this is where we're going to start every single time. We're going to start here, and we're going to start here before you build anything, because I believe that you need to clearly see what you already have. You need to see it from a different lens. You need to have somebody from the outside looking in and helping you understand what it is that you already have. And what I found is that most women, they significantly underestimate what they've accumulated over their lives because they're just too close to it. It's kind of like when you were in college and you had to write a paper, and you write the paper, and they always say, well, when I was in college, they would always recommend that we have somebody else proofread it, because as many times as we proofread it, we're just too close to the work. We'll miss things. We'll miss a place where there needs to be a comma or an apostrophe, right? So oftentimes your skills, your experiences, and your expertise, you miss it and you underestimate it, you undervalue it because you're just too close to it. And so that's why when you work with me, this is where we start, so that I can give your life, your skill set, your expertise, I can give it a fresh look. So the things that you are good at, oftentimes they feel ordinary to you because you've been doing the same thing for years. But here's the thing. Ordinary to you is often extraordinary to someone who hasn't figured it out yet. So scanning your skills means that we'll be looking at your career. We're going to be looking at your experiences. We're going to be looking at your education, and we're going to be looking at your life with fresh eyes. And this isn't to evaluate whether it's impressive enough, but we do this because I want you and I to identify where your real leverage is. So the scan is the foundation of everything else that comes after, because the strongest coaching businesses aren't built on manufactured skills. They're built on real, proven, lived knowledge that has already created results somewhere else in your life. So that is S in the safety method, and that is scan your skills. So the A is for align with your audience. So once we've scanned your skills, I will help you connect your strongest skill to the people who most need what that skill is, and to the people who are ready to invest in getting help with that skill. So this is the part where specificity becomes your most important tool, because a skill that could theoretically help anyone, la-di-da-di and everybody, well, that skill in practice will effectively help nobody. The women who build income the fastest, they're the ones who get specific the fastest, period. Alignment here within this portion of the method is not about narrowing your impact. It's about making sure that the right person can find you and immediately recognize that you're the right fit for them. And that recognition is what creates the trust that leads to payment. Because that's what we're doing this for, right? We want to get paid. So that is the A. We're going to align your skills with your audience. The F in the safety framework or the safety method is to framework your offer. And this is where you take what you know and who you're serving, and you turn it into something that people can buy. So a coaching offer is not a list of topics. It's a collection of sessions. It is a structured pathway from a specific problem to a specific outcome. And that process, that pathway, it's delivered by you, and it's delivered over a defined period of time, and it comes with a defined investment. So frameworking means giving your offer shape, giving your offer a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's a promise that's clear enough that someone can say, yes, that is exactly what I need. Or someone can say, nope, that's not for me. And they can say yes or no without having to ask 17 follow-up questions. So the clarity of your framework, that is what determines, that is literally what determines how well your offer converts. It is clarity. Clarity leads to conversion. And a well-framed offer doesn't require a big audience or an aggressive marketing strategy. It requires the right person to experience you and your offer and then immediately understand what it is that you're selling. Okay? So the E in the safety method is to execute your plan. And here is where most frameworks skip the hard part. Scanning your skills and building your offer, that is meaningful and necessary work, but they live entirely in your head until you put systems in place that make your offer and your products available and your business operational. So executing your plan in the context of the safety method, it means setting up the essentials. That's something else that the E in the safety method could stand for, is essentials. So what are you talking about? I'm talking about your messaging, your simple enrollment process, your client communication system, and your first marketing action. Execution doesn't require all the things. It requires the things that matter first. Execution is not about perfection, y'all. It's about motion. So it's about getting your offer in front of people. It's about starting conversations. It's about making the asking for the sale. Because no amount of planning inside of your head or inside of your notes app or your Google Doc or where your journal, no amount of planning inside of those places produces income. Am I right? So the T in my safety method, if you're just joining, I am walking you through my proprietary framework, the safety method, and I am so excited to introduce it to you on this episode of Nick at Noon. The T is for test and refine. And if you missed the first few letters of the safety method, I invite you to watch the replay of this episode on my YouTube channel. So the T is for test and refine. And here's the thing. One of the most liberating things that I can tell you about building a coaching business is that your first version is supposed to be imperfect. Because the market will teach you things about your offer, your messaging, your ideal client, and your delivery that no amount of siloed solo preparation could ever teach you. So every client conversation you have, every discovery call you conduct, every piece of feedback you get is data, and that data makes everything in your business sharper. So testing and refined in the context of my safety method, it means staying in motion while you improve. Let me say that again. Testing and refine in the context of my safety method means staying in motion at the same time you're improving. So in other words, you are literally building the plane as you're flying it. So it doesn't mean that you're going to stop and rebuild from scratch every time something doesn't launch or land perfectly. What you're going to do, and if you were my client, and what I would help you do is adjust based on evidence. I will help you stay consistent and trust that your first version is nothing more than a bridge to the better version. And this is where I have found most coaches quit too early, because what happens is they test once and then they don't get the results that they want, or they get results that aren't perfect. And then they start to believe and start to tell themselves this story that this whole thing doesn't work for them, or they're not cut out for this. And the reality of it is that almost always that there's just one small adjustment that would have changed everything for them. So the why in safety method. Hello. Thanks for joining. The why is for yield sustainable results. Remember at the beginning of this conversation, I said that I have this method that takes you from idea to a built offer that you can introduce to your audience, that you can sell, that you can start to generate income beyond your 9-to-5 and have that second income stream. Remember I said that, but I also said part of this method, it takes you beyond that initial. It takes you into sustainability, scalability, and growth, right? And that is what the why in my safety method is all about. It is yielding sustainable results, because the goal of this method, it has never been just for you to enroll your first client and make your first dollar. The goal of the safety method is for you to have the kind of online business that fits your life over the long term, right? We are visionaries in this thing. The goal is for you to have an online business that generates income without requiring you to burn yourself down to maintain it. The safety method is for you to create an online business that grows with intention, that creates the freedom, the safety, and the kind of fulfillment that your work is supposed to produce in the first place. So yielding means building toward scale while still protecting things that matter most. And what does scale means? It means that I can do one action and still have the same multiplied impact without exhausting myself and having to do it 300 times. So the yield part in this method is really designed to protect your time. It's designed to protect your energy. It's designed to protect your family. It's designed to protect your legacy, your values. It is designed to protect your version of success and not somebody else's. So that is the safety method. It is scan your skills, align with your audience, framework your offer, execute your plan, test and refine, and then yield sustainable results. So tell me, which letter, S.A.F.E.T.Y, are you in right now in your business? Drop it in the comments. Drop it in the chat if you're watching live. I just want to see where everyone is in their journey. So before I close, I want to bring all of this together. Let me bring all of this together real quick. First of all, you don't need to start over. You don't need to quit your job. You don't need to build a massive social media audience. You don't need to earn another credential or degree, and you do not need to wait until your life is less full. What you need is to clearly see what it is that you already have. You need to get specific about who you're serving, and you need to follow a clear path from skills to income. And that is the safety method. And that is what Her Income Lab is designed to move you through in real time. So on May 30th, we are spending 3 hours together, and we're going to be building your offer. You will be walking out with your ideal client defined, your offer structured and named, your price decided, and a pitch you can say with confidence. Your offer will not be planned. Your second income stream, you will leave this workshop with it already in motion. Your offer will be built. Registration closes on May 29th, and general admission is $147, or you can upgrade to the VIP experience for $297. The link is in the description for Her Income Lab, or you can go to my website at herincomeedit.com/workshop. Do me a favor. Drop the word lab, L-A-B, in the comments if you are in with me for Her Income Lab. I want you to share this episode with a woman in your life who keeps saying she wants to build the thing, but she doesn't know where to start. Because the safety method is where she starts, okay? So thank you to everyone who joined me on this Friday on this episode of Nick at Noon. I appreciate all of you who popped in and out of today's episode. I see the love. Thanks so much for showing me love. Listen, I am here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Mountain Time. So if you are not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notification so you don't miss a beat. And join me in Her Income Lab. The link is down in the description, like I said, or you can go to my website at herincomeedit.com/workshop. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will see y'all in the next one.